30,000 years ago, this creature was your worst nightmare, a cold-blooded apex predator hunting your ancestors in the pitch black. Yet somehow, that terrifying monster became the fluffy best friend sleeping at the foot of your bed today. But here's the craziest part. Humans didn't invent dogs, and we never planned them. In fact, wolves actually engineered their own evolution and domesticated themselves while we were looking the other way. How did a lethal predator pull off the greatest accidental transformation in Earth's history? Stick around, because the truth will completely change how you look at your pet. 1. The paradox of the apex predator. For the vast majority of our shared history on Earth, the wolf was the absolute embodiment of primal terror. If you were a human being navigating the unforgiving landscapes of the Paleolithic era, the haunting echo of a wolf's howl cutting through the midnight air did not signify a loyal companion. It signaled an immediate, life-threatening crisis. Early humans were biologically disadvantaged. We were relatively small, agonizingly slow, and lacked any natural armor. In stark contrast, wolves were the ultimate endurance hunters. They possessed crushing jaw pressure, a sense of smell that could track a target from miles away, and specialized night vision that turned the darkness into their personal arena. They operated in highly disciplined packs, making them an unstoppable force. Yet, through one of the most astonishing twists in evolutionary history, it was this terrifying predator, not the majestic horse, the docile cow, or even our genetically closer primate cousins, that transformed into our most intimate biological ally. Today, the global canine population exceeds 900 million. Dogs have transitioned from fearsome wilderness rivals to cherished family members that sleep under our blankets, guard our properties, detect hidden explosives, and wear colorful birthday hats at family parties. It is a beautiful, symbiotic reality that we often take for granted. If you find this incredible historical transformation as fascinating as we do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss our deep dives into the hidden mysteries of history. Because when you look at the sleeping pet at your feet, you are looking at a living miracle that completely reshaped the destiny of mankind. 2. The accidental pioneers of self-domestication. The existence of the modern dog was never a calculated blueprint. No prehistoric tribal council ever gathered around a council fire to sketch out the concept of a fluffy, cooperative animal designed to play fetch or comfort humans. Instead, dogs were forged entirely by accident, driven by the powerful forces of opportunistic survival. The process likely began during the peak of the last ice age, roughly 20,000 to 40,000 years ago, when human populations existed as nomadic hunter-gatherers. These small bands of 20 to 50 individuals were constantly on the move, facing brutal winters, frequent starvation, and the constant threat of injury. However, humans possessed one specific trait that altered the local ecosystem. They were incredibly messy eaters. Even in times of scarcity, human campsites left behind a treasure trove of biological waste, discarded bones, fatty scraps, animal hides, and partially consumed carcasses. To a hungry wolf, the perimeter of a human camp was not a battleground, but a moving goldmine of free, effortless calories. This created a powerful evolutionary filter. The hyper-aggressive wolves that rushed the camp were promptly speared by terrified humans, while the overly timid wolves stayed too far in the shadows and starved. The breakthrough came from a unique minority of wolves born with a rare genetic disposition. They possessed lower adrenaline production, making them naturally less fearful and more curious. These calmer outliers realized they could survive much easier by simply following the human migration routes and scavenging their leftovers, initiating a process of self-domestication before humans even realized what was happening. 3. The Siberian experiment and the domestication syndrome. This narrative of behavioral change altering physical appearance might sound like historical fiction, but modern science has proved it in real time. In 1959, a visionary Soviet geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev embarked on a radical experiment in the freezing climate of Siberia using wild silver foxes. His methodology was deceptively simple. In every single generation, he tested the foxes and selected only the absolute tamest, least aggressive individuals to breed with one another. He never trained them, never utilized rewards, and never taught them tricks. He simply filtered them exclusively by their psychological tolerance for human presence. Within just a few short decades, the behavioral transformation was staggering. The foxes began acting precisely like domestic dogs, wagging their tails when humans approached, whining anxiously for affection, and eagerly licking the hands of their caretakers. But the true scientific shockwave lay in their physical anatomy. As the foxes grew tamer, their bodies altered automatically. Their once prick ears collapsed into floppy folds, their elongated snouts shortened significantly, their coats developed patches of white fur, and their tails curled upward. This phenomenon, known today as domestication syndrome, occurs because the neural crest cells that dictate adrenaline and aggression also influence physical traits like cartilage structure and pigment. The ancient proto-dogs undergoing self-domestication around Ice Age campfires began looking softer, smaller, and inherently less intimidating to humans, effectively using evolution to subconsciously rewrite their visual threat level long before humans ever engaged in intentional, selective breeding practices. 4. The genesis of a survival alliance. As these increasingly tolerant proto-dogs lingered on the fringes of prehistoric settlements, humans quickly recognized the immense tactical advantages of keeping them around. A wolf's sensory capabilities are vastly superior to our own. They can detect the faint snap of a twig or the scent of an approaching threat from distances a human could never perceive. Consequently, a semi-tame wolf living on the camp perimeter served as a highly efficient, living early warning defense system. If a massive cave bear approached in the dead of night, the wolves reacted instantly. If an enemy tribe attempted a stealthy ambush, the wolves raised the alarm. Furthermore, when humans ventured out into the wilderness to hunt, these canine companions could track wounded game over vast distances, far better than any human tracker. This mutually beneficial relationship accelerated rapidly, establishing dogs as the absolute first animal ever domesticated by humanity, preceding the taming of goats, sheep, and the invention of agriculture by thousands of years. When humanity eventually transitioned into farming societies, dogs evolved alongside us yet again. As our diet shifted heavily toward cultivated grains, the canine digestive system underwent a genetic mutation, developing the ability to process starches far more efficiently than wild wolves ever could. They were our partners before the construction of the Egyptian pyramids, before the smelting of metal tools, and before the invention of written language, actively adapting their very biology to mirror the cultural evolution of human society. 5. The neurochemical bond and true domestication cost. Over the course of millennia, the connection between humans and dogs deepened from a mere business transaction of food for protection into a profound emotional synchronization. Neuroscientists have discovered that when a human and a dog gaze deeply into each other's eyes, both of their brains release massive surges of oxytocin, the exact same hormone responsible for the deep emotional bonding between a human mother and her newborn infant. Wild wolves do not exhibit this neurochemical reaction with humans, showcasing how evolution specifically rewired the canine brain to emotionally manipulate and connect with human psychology. Dogs even developed unique facial musculature, such as the ability to raise their inner eyebrows to create puppy dog eyes, an expression that triggers an instinctive nurturing response in humans. Some anthropologists argue that this alliance was so powerful that tribes utilizing dogs possessed an overwhelming survival advantage, allowing Homo sapiens to successfully outcompete other hominids and populate the entire globe. However, this intense artificial selection arrived with a heartbreaking biological cost. In our modern quest to engineer specific aesthetic looks, we have stripped dogs of the robust health that characterized their wild ancestors. Many contemporary breeds suffer from severe, man-made genetic defects. Pugs endure lifelong respiratory distress due to crushed airways, dachshunds frequently suffer debilitating spinal collapses, and bulldogs are often physically incapable of giving birth without emergency veterinary surgery, highlighting the dark side of human intervention. 6. The eternal shadow of the wilderness. Despite the immense physical diversity of modern breeds, from the tiny Chihuahua to the massive Great Dane, the ancient spirit of the Ice Age predator still lives vibrantly beneath the surface. When your pet dog turns in meticulous circles before finally settling down on a plush living room rug, they are unconsciously repeating a tens of thousands of years old instinct inherited from wild wolves, flattening tall wilderness grass to check for pests. When they instinctively bury a bone in the backyard, howl at a passing siren, or twitch their paws during a deep dream, they are tapping into a reservoir of ancient survival programming that refuses to fade. Other domesticated animals maintain a distinct distance. Cats merely cohabitate near our structures. Cattle tolerate our presence for food, and horses work under our direction. But dogs genuinely joined our species. They walked with us across frozen land bridges, guarded our vulnerable children while apex predators circled just beyond the firelight, and followed us into brutal migrations, wars, and entirely new continents. This went far beyond utility. It became love. This truth is beautifully immortalized in a 14,000-year-old archaeological grave found in Germany, where a man, a woman, and a dog were carefully buried together. Analysis showed the dog had been severely ill for months before its death, meaning these Ice Age humans sacrificed precious resources to nurse it. Our bond was forged in the harshest environments imaginable, turning a terrifying monster into humanity's greatest friend.